All right, UFC 137 Penn versus Diaz. I've got to say, lots of mixed feelings in this on this card. I thought it was a solid card, but let's just get straight to it. Obviously, the Facebook fight results were up first. Francis Carmon versus Chris Camozzi. I've got to say, a great performance from Carmon, dominating the clinch. Obviously, setting up great takedowns. Did it well off some crisp striking. Obviously, the marks are on him. He trains out of TriStar Gym Montreal with GSP, and it showed. His pressure throughout the fight was constant. Putting Camozzi against the cage. Where he really he really delivered some hard shots and accurate knees. Great Muay Thai. I thought his slam was very spectacular. He utilized some very good ground and pound. It really hurt Camozzi, and it was a great first fight under the UFC banner for Carmon. And obviously he's moving forward. For me, also, I felt that his stagnant movements, like him standing around a little bit, I think that might catch up with him in the future against better opponents, in my opinion. But definitely the mark is on him. Coming out of TriStar, it was evident that the work he's been doing out of TriStar with Zahavi and of course George St. Pierre, it was obvious. But hey, did anyone see George St. Pierre leap off the top of the cage after the fight? Sore knee? I don't know. Anyway, let's move forward. Danny Downs against Ramsey Nijem at lightweight. Well, Downs, training under Duke Rufus, very tough kid, great chin, very scrambly, good jiu-jitsu. Ramsey Nijem, season 13 finalist, trains with Court McGee, comes out of John Hackelman's gym, The Pit. I mean, obviously, we all know who came out of there. And, Ramsey was going to come prepared. There's no doubt about it. Well, he came out hard and fast. He really put it on Downs early, attacking him and taking him down, then taking his back, attacking with a rear naked choke, but with no love. Downs just hung in there in the first round and found a way to survive a brilliant round for Ramsey. Obviously, cut a long story short, let's go straight to round 3. A solid performance from Ramsey. He utilized great striking and excellent grappling, keeping Danny Downs on his back throughout the round and throughout the fight. An impressive result for Ramsey, that's for sure, against a very tough kid. Unfortunately, he was outclassed on this in this occasion for Danny Downs. But you know what's interesting about him? There were glimpses of brilliance. There were glimpses of real savvy, slippery, sneaky ness about Danny Downs. And you know what, man? I'm willing to give this kid another shot. I'm willing to give this kid another look at. I reckon, he could be just on the fringe or on the cusp of really doing something amazing. So, don't take your eyes off him. Although he didn't come through with the victory, Ramsey Nijem obviously deserved it. But Danny Downs, man, he is dangerous. That's for sure. Elliot Marshall against Brandon Vera. Well, obviously, Elliot Marshall, BJJ black belt. It showed in this fight. Obviously, a tough contestant. Brandon Vera is a BJJ brown belt, trained under Lloyd Irvin. Vera, great, solid Muay Thai, always has. Look, it was set to be a really good fight. So, for me, excellent first round for both fighters coming out. Vera got rocked by some nice inside boxing from Elliot Marshall. A very solid start from both fighters, to be honest. Round 2, Vera attacking with excellent knees and good wrestling against the cage. A solid round for Vera. Marshall may be a little behind at that point in the fight in my mind, but you could see that it was a little bit more maybe intent for Marshall. I think I thought to myself, coming out for round 3, he's gonna feel that he's a little bit behind. So we may see maybe some fireworks in round 3. Elliot Marshall obviously, did come out firing. He tagged Brandon Vera early, and then swarmed on him, trying to finish him. But Vera stayed in the fight. Somehow Marshall just, displayed his trademark jiu-jitsu, and he took Brandon Vera's arm, and as it turned out, apparently, it broke. But testament to Brandon Vera, apparently, in the judge's eyes, in the end, it could have gone either way, in my opinion. I mean, it ended pretty badly for Vera, but seemed to have done enough in the fight. So, it wasn't a unanimous decision, I think it was. To Brandon Vera. Look, you could be a little bit surprised at it, but I guess, you leave it in the hand of the judges. That's what happens, I guess. Tyson Griffin, Bart Palasevsky, man, I'm really impressed with Bart Palasevsky. I don't know whether Tyson Griffin was like asleep or he was a little bit, not paying attention or whatnot, but mate, when Bart landed those hands and really put Tyson Griffin against the cage, it really started to light the show up, that's for sure. And Bart Palasevsky, man, what a great fight. I mean, no wonder he stopped that. He's stopped some good fighters in the past. He just waited and bided his time and waited for his moment, and he really rocked Tyson Griffin. So a spectacular fight and result for Bart Palasevsky. Now, this guy is growing on me every time I see this boy fight. You know, even before Donald Cerrone fought Ben Henderson in the second fight, the rematch, where I was really disappointed with Donald Cerrone's performance there. But since then, Donald Cerrone has just been getting stronger and stronger, and he was up against Dennis Siver. And I got to tell you, when Donald Cerrone came out, man, he just looked spectacular. And Dennis Siver's no bum. Dennis Siver's a strong dude. You know, he's really, really strong and hard to knock out. You know, he's really, really solid. Those traps and those shoulders, that chin, that head. He's a German. He's a powerhouse. He was on a 4-fight win streak. Man, when Donald Cerrone landed that inside leg kick switch, he paused. He kind of held that roundhouse kick and then slam. He just slammed it straight on Siver's chin. And Siver started backpedaling like he was falling off a ladder. And obviously Cerrone swarmed on him again, touching him again with a nice strong right hand, taking his back and just sinking in a vicious, vicious choke, trapping his arm. Man, did you see his base? He had his knees so wide. He had his pelvis sucked straight down. He pinned the Dennis Siver absolutely textbook down on that mat. He was going nowhere. That was just an incredible performance by Donald Cerrone, man. One of my favorite fighters without doubt. I can't wait to see that guy fight again. It's going to be absolutely amazing. And apparently he's set to fight Nate Diaz. I think I heard on the grapevine Nate Diaz is going to be fighting him in December sometime. We'll see what happens. That's going to be unbelievable. Donald Cerrone, what a great performance. What a class act, honestly. Out of Greg Jackson's camp. Mate, he's just come forward in leaps and bounds. Just awesome. Just absolutely awesome. Now, going on to the main card. The main pay-per-view, George Roop came out. You know, I don't know. I'm just going to get to the point. Look, you know, Hioki is very technical. There's no doubt about it. He came with pretty good background coming out of fighting out of Japan and Japanese organization. It was set to be a really good fight. George Roop has been improving out of sight. Every time he gets into the cage, he's looking way better. And, mate, that left high round kick, trademark, beautiful. Such good execution. They're always threatening with that. You know, well, look, you know, I've got to say it was pretty scrappy. You know, on the outset, both were throwing some good hands and some head kicks and landing impressively. Hioki controlled the fight against the cage a little bit and got a takedown. Maybe he was ahead there. Round 2, scrappy second round. Roop taking it to Hioki. You know, it was a really good round for Roop. So to me, it was was even. Round 3, excellent wrestling from Hioki. Great striking from Roop. Could go either way with Roop, you know, getting the takedown as well. Man, it was a split decision. I don't disagree that it was a split decision. But and Hioki got the nod from the judges on this occasion. Now, it could have gone either way. But, man, you know, mate, I don't know, man. I just think, you know, Roop got that takedown in the third round as well. I mean, so, I don't know. Well, anyway, look, as it happens, it was a split decision. It went Hioki's way. It was a great fight. I enjoyed it. I'm sure Roop will be back, and he'll be out to really impress next up. Now, next fight, Jeff Curran, Scott Jorgensen. I really enjoyed this fight. Curran just showed why he's an incredible Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Just amazing off his back, you know, really threatening well. Scott Jorgensen, man, he hung in there the whole time. The pace was fierce from the outset. Both fighters really determined and really trying to shine. Jorgensen's base is amazing, man. That's what happens when you wrestle for so long. You're just almost impossible to sweep. And again, you know, just great pressure from Curran, really trying to impose his dangerous ground game. Well, you know, in the end, a great scrap. Jorgensen really pushing and staying on top and landing well in the exchanges and took the unanimous decision. You know, I thought it maybe was a little bit closer than that, but nonetheless, Scott Jorgensen did what he had to do to win. And again, I'm looking forward to seeing Jeff Curran again, no doubt, and I'm looking forward to seeing him working off his back. It was always exciting to see these Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts really backing themselves and really, you know, pushing to really try and finish. I mean, I'd rather get carried on my shield rather than just playing safe. And that's definitely what Jeff Curran did. You know, he was really stayed in the fight the whole time and did all he could to try and finish. But, you know, on this occasion just wasn't good enough. Now let's move into Roy Nelson against Mirko Cro Cop. Look, you know, Roy Nelson, Ultimate Fighter 10 Series winner, has got a great chin. He's proven that against Junior Dos Santos so many times. BJJ black belt, KO power. You know, he's come up against Mirko Cro Cop, who's a dangerous fighter at all times. I mean, I know he hasn't really done great things in the UFC. I know he really seemed to struggle in the limelight. But he's done an incredible amount for the sport, sure did. And he really, really, this was his farewell fight, and man, did he really deliver. It was great to see him really throwing down. Roy Nelson really did a good job there. You know, it was a great first round for both fighters. Nelson getting the better of the exchanges. Cro Cop did well, landing some hands and solid body kicks that he's so well known for. Nelson getting the takedown but could not impose his game on top. Going in round 2, mate, Cro Cop got rocked, and Nelson loses his balance, and Cro Cop just seizes the opportunity and swarms on him against the cage. Nelson withstands Cro Cop's best hands I've seen him throw in the cage, and survives and recomposes himself. With 2 minutes left in the round, Nelson gets the takedown with Cro Cop tired and looking to finish. Cro Cop gets put into the salivary or the mounted crucifix, which, on the ground where his arms are isolated, leaving his head open to strikes. And what could Cro Cop do? He just had to hang in there, and he survived. He was very tired, but he survived. Big Country came out, landed a straight right early in that 3rd round, backing Cro Cop up against the cage, and takes advantage of a massive of a mistake. And Cro Cop just falls to the ground. Nelson takes his back, pounds him out for a TKO victory. There wasn't much that Cro Cop could have done once Roy Nelson started really digging those hooks in and putting his pressure down on that back. So, look, I love the fight, to be honest with you. It was an excellent fight for both fighters. They both gave it their all. I was surprised in Cro Cop's performance, but on this occasion, he leaves once again beaten and retired. So I appreciate everything that Cro Cop brought to the UFC, although, he kind of didn't deliver as well as we had anticipated. But man, coming through K1, he was just incredible. Coming through Pride, amazing. Some of the most legendary fights we've ever seen. With Vanderlei Silva and Dan Henderson, etc. So for me, for the rest, he was one of the greatest of all time as far as the strikers go. So he will always go down the annals of history as one of the best strikers out there. So sad to see him leave. A great fight for him to end his career on, no doubt about that. Czech Congo, Matt Mitrione. Look, I've got to say, it was a tentative first round. A lot of feints being thrown. Second round, great opening for both fighters. Coming out swinging, obviously sensing that something needed to be done. Mitrione landed some very, solid shots towards the end of the round, but I felt that the 3rd round was going to be absolutely violent, and it pretty much was. A dominated round for Congo, of course, getting 2 takedowns and pounding Matt Mitrione, opening him up and controlling him throughout the last round. It came down to the last round, in my opinion, and I'm not surprised in a unanimous decision. So for me, a lackluster co-main event. I don't know. 2 big boys. Czech Congo looks like an action figure. He's so incredibly powerful and ripped and lean, and he's just amazing. And I don't know, I just thought he would have not played so cautiously. I think he was a little cautious in the first 2 rounds, but obviously did enough to win in the 3rd. Now, the result of the card: BJ Penn versus Nick Diaz. Now, Nick Diaz obviously competing in triathlon, incredible conditioning, probably one of the most conditioned fighters going around. 10-fight winning streak, vacated Strikeforce welterweight championship position. Incredible submission skills, unrelenting striking style, KO power, great chin, comes out of CZ Gracie camp, hanging around with boys like Nate and Gilbert Melendez, Jake Shields. Incredible, really. Well, BJ Penn holding 2 UFC titles in separate weight classes, incredible ground game, knockout power. I mean, look what he did to Matt Hughes. Very motivated. One of, if not my favorite fighters on the planet. I mean, unbelievable. Met him in Sydney earlier this year in Australia. Cool as hell, man. That guy's so cool. Little guy, amazing. When I actually met him, it just took my breath away to think that this guy's held the titles in 2 weight classes, just amazing. And what he's been through with Frankie Edgar, GSP, the whole saga right through to where it seems to be halted right now. Just one of those guys that's had a huge contribution in the UFC, and just loved watching him over the last 10 years. Well, as it went, round 1, I had to give it a BJ Penn, landing some crisp striking, taking Diaz's back, fast hands, great wrestling. BJ Penn looked amazing in that first round, but in the second round, he started to just get touched, Once Diaz started landing some vicious shots, and I got to say, man, it was some of the most vicious beating I've ever seen BJ Penn take ever. And I gotta be honest with you, I didn't think he was going to answer the bell in the 3rd round. I didn't think he was going to come out at all. I'm really surprised. And, maybe BJ Penn sensed that this was the end, really, and thought, well, let the hell with it. If he's going to take it, let him knock me out. Let's see if he can knock me down for the first time. Let's see if he can knock me out. Let's see if he can finish me. And he stood there the whole time. Well, as busted up as he was, he came out in the 3rd round, and what a great last round. Both fighters throwing down. Diaz landing more shots, of course. Unbelievable heart and courage from BJ Penn, of course. He gave it his all. But Nick Diaz, what a beast. He just was relentless. He was textbook. It was typical a la Nick Diaz. He just kept throwing down. And BJ Penn just came back on occasion and just kept lighting him up, slamming some vicious counter-punching. Nick Diaz just kept going. It was unbelievable. a unanimous decision victory for Nick Diaz. Obviously, he's going to move forward here. Man, what a scrap against GSP. I can't wait to see that fight. Man, you know what? I can't wait to see Nick Diaz fight anyway. I mean, I've been watching him closely through Strikeforce. I've always loved his style. I mean, also Nate Diaz. I mean, they're very similar in the way they present their styles. And man, I've got to say, Nick Diaz, man, what a great example of what hard work is. Very talented, just so committed to fighting. Just it's what he loves and what he does. And I've got to say, looking at some of the post fight conference details that Nick was talking about. I mean, man, all heart. I mean, I'm sure he has won thousands of fans by just coming out and being honest. Talking about his training partners and how there's no reprieve for them. There's no reward for them to go out there and put it on the line and get smashed by Nick Diaz, in training, day after day. He's got a point. But of course, the news of the event, BJ Penn announced his retirement, which was, pretty shocking to me. I love BJ Penn, and to see him lose like that and to get so busted up, it broke my heart, I must admit. But especially if you're a big fan. But for me, he's given me so much amazing moments over the last 10 years. He's one of the most courageous champions I've ever seen. And I wish him all the luck in the world. Obviously, he's starting his family and he's moving into his new chapter in his life. I'm sure he's going to move into the media. I'm sure the UFC are going to look at what he has to offer as far as media goes and play some kind of role. I mean, BJ Penn is fantastic for the sport regardless. And, I hope someday to even go into Hawaii and just go out and hang out with the guy and train with him. I mean, he's got amazing things to offer still as a retired fighter. So, for me, all the best to BJ Penn. It was sad, but Nick Diaz, man, what a beast. What a beast. So, obviously, 138, UFC 138 is next in England this weekend. Obviously, 7 a.m. in Australia, Sunday morning. I think I'm going to have to tape that one. But also, we've got UFC on Fox, Velasquez dos Santos coming up 12 November. I'll be in LA for that. I'm looking forward to hanging out with Eddie and the boys down there. Looking forward to it. And then again, a week later, UFC 137, Shogun Rua versus Dan Henderson. And Vanderlei Silva is fighting Kung Lee on the 19th. I can't wait for that. It's going to be huge. And then don't forget, December 4, the Ultimate Fighter finale, Bisping Mayhem Miller. Unbelievable. Incredible. It's all happening. Not to forget what's going on with Jones Machida coming up towards the end of the year. It's incredible. Unbelievable. And I think December 30, there's still a fight coming up December 30, isn't it? Brock Lesnar is fighting on that card as well. So it's going to be big. The year's not over at all. We're just getting heated up for a spectacular end to 2011. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys soon. Please leave your comments below. If you're enjoying these blogs, please subscribe to this video. It just motivates me to keep moving forward. And thanks for watching.